Welcome back to Sugar Mama's Fireplay and my very special mini-series, Out of Thin Air. This is where we dive into the stories of everyday people who've created extraordinary success from a simple idea, a little bit of courage, and a whole lot of determination. Because here's the truth. You don't actually always need a huge amount of money to make money. Sometimes what you really need is some creativity, resourcefulness, and the willingness to take that first powerful, important step. Today, I'm speaking with an Australian artist, Anna Price, whose journey is nothing short of inspiring. What started today as a simple hobby, in fact, she wanted to just decorate a blank wall in a financially friendly way in her home, that is painting. This idea actually has grown into a thriving full-time business and has allowed her to juggle her life with 4 children and, of course, having balance and harmony in her life. Now, don't get me wrong, this did not happen overnight, and there's been lots of setbacks and challenges along the way. But Anna today is actually going to share with us how she got started, how she navigated the self-doubt, and what she learned about running a business and looking after herself along the way. And she's going to share advice that she wishes she could have given her younger self. So if you're listening to this right now and think, gosh, I have a dream, I have a desire, I have a hope of one day turning my hobby into something more, monetizing or not, but something meaningful, fulfilling, and hopefully financially rewarding, this conversation will definitely light a fire within you. So let's get started. Good morning, Anna. How are you today? I would like to ask this, but don't just say how are you in that surface level. How are you? Like, how are you really?
I'm surviving. I'm good. I'm well.
Thank you for
I'm
saying
here.
that.
I'm alive. I showed up and I'm here. And thank you for that amazing introduction. You're making me emotional. You just put it all out there.
I'm a highly emotional person, so feel free to let it all out. This is a safe
Let's
space.
cry together. Let's do it.
And I love that you're surviving a bit, especially with 4 young children.
Yeah.
Like
things escalated quickly there. They really, really did.
Twins tend to do that, yeah.
Yeah, they did. So,
well, look, just as a bit of background, like I've been following you on Instagram for a while. I think your art is just pure, like magical happiness and bliss on a canvas. And I know you do prints as well, but it's just, there's something, I look at your pictures online and I imagine that they just transform but light up a room. And I came across a post of yours not that long ago and you talked about your story. And I was the person that swiped through, and I was
read every 20 slides.
Yes, everything you wrote. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And it made me realize, wow, like I had this, it's not what I thought. Like I was like, you were so vulnerable, so authentic, so honest and raw. And I was like, everyone needs to hear this story of yours because, so many times we throw the towel in, we quit, we give up, we lose faith and hope within ourselves.
That's me every other day wanting to quit.
Yeah, and this is why people need to hear.
And that's what you don't see.
Yes.
You see the smoke in the mirrors and you only see the best bits, but I always love putting out the reality of what's going on. And that's how you get cut through as well on socials. Like everyone is complaining that they're not getting seen anymore. It's because you're trying to be like everyone else. Just people want to see the human side of what's going on in your life.
The warts and all.
Exactly. And they relate to that and they like that. So it makes them feel normal. So if you want to connect to an audience, just be yourself and tell your story as it is. So that's what I was doing with that post. So, yeah.
Well, I loved it and I've come back to it many times.
Oh, thank you.
Now, for the listeners who aren't familiar with who you are and your story, can you take us back to the very beginning?
Yes.
And I love the picture you've got on your Instagram account, but that moment where you decided you had a blank wall and you wanted to decorate it, but in a budget-friendly way.
So, yes, I started this business accidentally. It was not a plan. I never thought I would be painting was not even a hobby of mine. I was an illustrator as a kid, but never a painter. The last painting I probably did was a finger painting in preschool, but I was always drawing and I did like art for year 12 and then I went into like interior design. I studied interior design and then I started working in modular construction. So I started my own business in 2012, and I was working with shipping containers and turning them into like living units and pop-up shops and cafes and office blocks and stuff like that. And I absolutely loved what I did. And I was the weirdo that was just totally obsessed with shipping containers. So I had my Instagram account for that, and it was just my design business. I wanted to start the family. So we had trouble with trying for babies. And so like many families, we resorted to IVF, and we got lucky.
Yeah.
We planned to have 3 kids, went to put the 3rd embryo in, and it split into identical twins. So we went from thinking we couldn't have kids to having 4 kids in 4 years, and it was just crazy. The funny thing about that is most people were like, oh my God, how are you going to cope? I'm so sorry. But we were so excited, like we were so happy, but everyone was freaking out as if it was happening to them. But I'm the youngest of 5, he's the youngest of 4. So we're all for the big family thing. It was in our blood.
You're ready for the
And
chaos.
so that happened, and I had to take a full year off work. My other 2 mat leaves had been like working part-time because I was trying to run this little business on the side, and it was stressful and hard. This year I had all my kids at home because my daughter hadn't started school yet, and it was crazy and chaotic, and I loved it. But then I went back to work and back in front of the screen, drawing designs all day, and just something in me had shifted and I needed a change, but I didn't know what that was. And I wanted to work with more people, or I wanted to work with my hands, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And at the same time that those thoughts were happening, we just finished building our house, and I had a lot of big white walls to fill. And so I started looking up big artworks for big white walls, and I was very frustrated because it was just so far out of our budget. And it was nothing that we could afford. So I thought, I've got to come up with a way to do something with this wall. How can I be creative? So I thought, I'll try painting. I'm creative. I can draw. How hard can a painting be? So I did a painting. I went and bought about $80 worth of stuff from Riot Art and Craft, bought a cheap canvas, some student paints, and I did this painting. And I've hidden all evidence of it, so don't scroll back and try and find it because you won't find it. But I sat with it for a while, and then my kids' preschool were calling for auction items to raise money for the preschool. And I'm like, look, I'll give it to the preschool, see what happens, because I don't think I want it on my wall. Maybe it'll make $100. So on the night, it ended up selling for $800. And I was like,
$80 into $800.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good return on your investment.
All goes to the preschool. But look, you know, he was like, everyone was drinking and drunk and feeling generous and trying to raise money for the preschool. So it was, I was highly aware of that, but it also made me think, hey, maybe I've got something here. So I did another one, and then a friend said, can I buy that? And I said, sure. And then I thought, okay, I'm enjoying doing this. I'm starting to do it in my spare time, of which I had very little. But I thought I don't want to contaminate I want to document it on Instagram, but I don't want to contaminate my Container Kit Instagram page.
So this was still a hobby at this stage?
This was still a hobby. This was just something I was doing for fun on the side, because I was enjoying like the new process of painting and like trying to come up with ways of making it look good. I've got no art training. I have no business doing painting. I was just figuring it out as I go and using my creative intuition to like figure out composition and what I was doing. But they were pretty bad paintings at the start. As you can imagine, anyone who first starts, they think it's great, and you look back at your old work and you're like, oh my God, what was that? But anyway, I started documenting it on its own Instagram page. I had very few followers, but friends and family would follow me, and then they would recommend, and then I was getting these commissions on the side, and I would not be able to charge for them any more than the cost of the materials, because I thought, who am I to be charging my friends and family for something that they could be doing themselves? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So yeah, imposter syndrome was
I was going to say, hang on.
so real.
I would want to buy it because I have no idea how to do that myself. So to me, there's huge value in buying, and you're obviously charging me a profit. I would expect that, and I feel like everyone
a criminal.
Else would.
I felt like an absolute criminal. So
How did you get through that though?
Well, so I just kept charging for materials, and then sometimes I'd add maybe $50 on top because I'm like, okay, well maybe they can pay me for a little bit of my time. So then I kept up the posting on Instagram, and I started using hashtags, and then a local gallery picked up one of my hashtags, and she asked me if I wanted to be in the gallery, and I was absolutely stoked. I went and brought her my work, and she had a look at it, and she said, look, do you want to be in the gallery? She kind of schooled me a bit. She said, if you want to be in the gallery, you have to use better quality canvas. You cannot be using student paint. Like, these are things I had no idea about this, what I was using or what I was doing. She said, you can't be using student paint. It's going to fade. You need UV resistant paint. You have to get them framed. I'm going to be taking 50% as well because I'm the gallerist. So that's usually, galleries take anywhere between 30 and 50% of an artwork when it sells, and the artist gets the rest of it. So I'm thinking, if she wants to do that, take 50% and I've got to pay for framing and this and that. So she then suggested a new price for my artwork, which I'm like, that's absolutely ridiculous. So I think she maybe 4 or 6 times the price.
Wow.
So she could make some money and I could make some money and the materials were covered. So she did that and I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. No one's going to buy that. And then she sold them all. So
wow.
I'm like,
it's like the universe sent her in your life because you were never going to be able to do this yourself to get to this point where you actually started charging real true value.
Exactly. But I was also wise enough to listen to her, and she's like, this is, if you want to level up, then this is what you have to do. So, and then she put me in touch with the right people. And so I eventually stopped working with that gallery, but I kept my prices the same. So that was where I was able to step up. And then I just kept doing it, kept going with the painting, and then COVID, which was a really good time for someone in my position to have established an art business like 9 to 12 months before COVID. So anyone who kept their job needed a Zoom backdrop. And so all of a sudden, my commissions were coming in more and more. All of my design jobs had dried up because they were all commercial and social setting jobs that just got pulled. So that was great because I also had 2 toddlers and a 5 and a 7-year-old at home. So that was nuts.
God.
So what happened after that? COVID, and then all this. I was actually getting some jobs through Zoom. Like, people would be on Zoom with their colleagues and said, "Oh, where did you get that painting in the background?" So I was getting referrals through people, and the
soft selling.
Soft sell, and the commissions kept coming in, and I was totally relying on Instagram to post my work, get sales, and I would write invoices. The problem was that people kept wanting the same thing, and as a creative, I wanted to explore different styles. I didn't want to be the person who just does abstract. I want to do abstracts, but also florals, but also people, also cute. I wanted to do everything because that's me. I'm chaotic and I'm
like
nuts.
Keep it fluid and evolving.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody wanted the same painting, and I did this one painting 6 or 7 times, and they would control me to the nth degree, saying just a little bit of yellow here, and so it was like they were painting it, and it took all the joy out of what I was doing. That's where the prints came in. Actually, I need to tell you about the studio before I talk about that. In COVID, I'll come back to that, but during COVID, at the end of 2020, I was walking. We thought the worst of COVID was done by the end of 2020 because we'd had the first lockdown, if you remember.
Yeah.
Because you would have had little kids at the time too.
Right, so my kids were also all 3 were IVF as well, but I had basically two COVID babies pretty much as well. So
yes. So we thought that we were through the worst of it. At the end of 2020, I was walking down the street with a pram, and I came across this building. It had just been released because the people had to shut down their business. So the new tenants had it really cheap, and the shop front down the bottom on the street level was empty. So I knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, what's going on with this space?" And they said, "Oh, we can give it to you if you want. No one wants it. It's going to cost you $150 a week." And
is that all?
And I was like, I'll take it. I hadn't I hadn't planned this. I hadn't even dreamt of it. I was not trying to do anything, but I saw an opportunity, and I'm very impulsive. So I took it and ran with it. And I went home and I told my husband that I'm opening a gallery, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" But it's like, what's the worst that could happen? If it all goes to shit, then, we can use it as a storage unit.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's $150 a week. So there's no pressure there. So then I kept building up the commissions, and yes, I came to the problem where everyone wanted the same thing, and it was really annoying me. So I was complaining to my framer one day, and she said, "Why don't you start offering prints if everyone wants the same thing?" So that's when I realized that there was demand for a certain thing, and that prints were going to be a viable business move for me, because
and also adding a huge amount of efficiency financially and also for your time, in that a print can be, you can obviously control the supply, but also you can the cost is not time-wise and financially in making, say, a large canvas with all the materials involved.
And I wasn't even thinking of all those things at the time. I was just trying to solve the problem of me getting to paint what I wanted. So I then I thought it was good advice. So I said, okay, how do I do that? And that was a whole new, maybe took me 2 months to figure it out. I found this lady in Balmain called Teresa, and she does like all of Ken Doan's work, photographs it. So you have to get your painting into this file, which is like a 500 megabit file. Then you have to find someone to print it. So I found a production partner down in Mornington, and they do all the printing and stretching and framing and delivery. And then I had to build a website. So instead of relying just on my socials to sell my stuff, I now had built a website. And the prints then started, it cost me nothing. Once I had it set up, it was set and forget. So
the initial investment to then pay off, like short-term pain, long-term gain.
Exactly. So I had to take time to build it and stop painting while I was doing it. I built the website and sorted all my ducks, and then it was off and it was taking care of itself. So I wasn't getting that many print sales, maybe 1 or 2 a week, but it was like passive income on the side. It was amazing. There was still such high demand for my original paintings that the print thing was just this thing in the background. So I kept painting and I kept selling, and everything I painted sold, which was amazing. So I thought I will go.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was nuts. I felt like I was just going off the feedback, and like people, my Instagram kept growing, especially when I got the studio. The optics when you have a studio, I don't like the whole fake it till you make it. I was just doing it until I made it. I wasn't faking anything, but the optics when you get a studio is that she must be doing really well, or she must be really well established to get to the point where she can open her own thing. No one knew that I was paying $150 a week. Yeah. So my Instagram went from 10K to 20K, a few months later, 30, 50K. It just, and I got onto Reels as well. So at the time, I think it was about 2021, Instagram came out with Reels, and we're really moving into video content. And I got onto that pretty quickly. And it was the good old days where you just had one still shot and you didn't have to speak or cut it up or edit it. And I would do time-lapse paintings and people would lap them up. And so, yeah, the followers with each day, I was like, 200 to 400 followers a day. So the organic reach was it just worked differently back then. It's all changing all the time. But I was very lucky to have that. And once you see someone like an artist and you want to buy their work, you see how many followers they have, and it builds trust when you see that they've got 50,000 followers or 60 or whatever it is at the time. So that was like one trust building element, which then helped sell the paintings and sell the prints as well, which were ticking away in the background.
Had you at this stage cottoned on that this was actually not just a hobby, making a little extra pocket money on the side, but actually a legitimate business that was actually going to...
I figured that out once people kept... my old clients would say, okay, we've got this project for the containers and we need to do this and that. I'm like, I don't do that anymore. That's in my past. Because once I started painting, the amount of money I could make in 1 week as a designer versus the amount of money I could make by selling one painting, which took me 5 hours, was the same amount of money. Yeah. So it was much more profitable and much more enjoyable. And there I was feeling that need to use my hands and connect with people. I did work by myself, but I felt like I was working with other people because I was on the phone to my suppliers and I was visiting my gallerist and my framers and my stretchers and every day. So still was building this art community even though I worked by myself. So,
and had the imposter syndrome by now?
By then
departed?
It started leaving the room. So that was good because I'm like, well, you've got something that people want. Then that's been reinforced by the fact that people are following you because they like what you're putting out there. And so there's some goodness to that. So I just kept going with it. And then I thought, okay, this business cost me nothing to run. Print shop's running itself. I'm using Instagram, which is free, to put myself out there. So I started investing in doing the art shows. So I did the Affordable Art Fair in Sydney. It's about an $8,000 outlay to get there. I took 45 paintings in the first one, and which was way too many, but I sold 35 of them. So just did incredibly well. So this was 2023, I think. And then I followed suit, went to Melbourne and shot the lights out, took a whole bunch of really big paintings. And when you sell a bigger painting, they sell for more.
Yeah.
So did incredibly well at that show. So I came back feeling like I'm on fire. Everyone wants to buy my art. It's great. COVID's now over. It's the end of 2023. And I thought that the painting sales would die down after COVID, but they haven't. And so at this time, I also got kicked out of my studio. Oh, kicked out sounds a bit harsh, but the lease was ending. Okay. So I had to move and find another studio. Did I have to find another studio on reflection? No, because I could be doing what I'm doing anywhere. I sell what I sell online all over the world. I've never relied on people to walk in. But I'm thinking, well, the painting's not slowing down. There's still such high demand. So I can get whatever studio I want. So I looked around for a while and I found a new studio, which was like a shop front with a big window, concrete floors, set it up as a gallery with the idea that I was going to spend all of 2024 doing my own original exhibitions and keeping up that cadence of painting all the time. And then I also, this is where I started layering way too many things. I was also doing some clothing production as well. That's another story. So I started I wanted to do the art shows again because they went so well in 2023. So I did the first one in Brisbane and I took my paintings up there and then only half of them sold. And I was like, maybe it's just a Brisbane thing. Maybe it's a new market that doesn't know me too well. And then I followed suit and I went to Melbourne and I took a lot of big paintings like I had the year before, and everyone's walking out with the big paintings, not just me, but everyone and everywhere. What I hadn't realized was the economy had shifted. People stopped spending, interest rates, stuff happened, and inflation, original artwork was not on anyone's priority list. So in Melbourne, I had all these people coming to the stand, looking at my artwork, asking questions, hovering, coming back. I brought very few little ones. I brought a lot of big ones. The little ones sold really quickly. The big ones ended up all coming home with me. So I came home with my towel between my legs.
Yeah, I was going to say that would have been so deflating.
Oh, so bad. And the outlay for 2 art shows, so that's about maybe $16,000 plus the $35,000 a week a year in rent for the studio. So there's all these layers of expenses. And then I'm like, I can't paint anymore because I've got all these paintings I now need to sell. And I can't, the plan was to be in this expensive studio, which I'm now locked into for 3 years. And I can't, the plan was to paint and exhibit and paint, exhibit. And so that's not happening. So I eventually sold all the paintings, but I turned to the prints and I said, Prince, it's just you and me now. Yep. We need to make this work. And if I had not set up that print situation back in 20, whenever it was, which I kind of ignored and let hang in the side, then it would have screwed me. So, but I had that to fall back on. And so another thing I was doing at the time was paying ad managers, like digital marketing agency, to help elevate the prints. So yes, my business had gone from $150 a week to these huge, big layered overheads, which I was building as my success was growing.
Yeah.
So I was paying ad managers to sell my prints for me. And what they would do was they'd go into my organic socials and they would take just, posts that I've done and they'd turn them into ads. And then in the back of Meta, you can make you can create any audience you want. And so they would find me cold customers and they'd find me warm customers, and I'd get maybe 5 or 6 print sales a week. But after I paid them their $500 a week retainer and the ad spend and the production cost, it wasn't that good. I thought, I can do this better. So I fired them. And I said, I'm going to manage all my own ads. So I don't know if you've ever been into the back of Meta. Have you been to the back of Meta?
No.
No, don't go there.
No, I have, and I wanted to cry. Actually, no, I didn't want to cry. I cried.
Yeah.
It was so confusing and overwhelming, and my pages didn't match what the page was supposed to look like.
Bad.
It was like a foreign language.
Yep.
And I felt really frustrated and dumb.
Yep, exactly. And that's how I felt as well. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to learn how to do this.
And how did you learn? Because I just don't know how.
So instead of paying someone $500 a week in a retainer to do something that probably took them 2 minutes, I decided to invest in upskilling myself. Yeah. Because I couldn't paint anymore because the market wasn't demanding it.
Yeah.
The
It was all
demand was
print
for
now.
prints. So I learned how to do the ads myself, and it's been the most boring year of my life.
Oh,
It
really?
was so, because you're a creative and you're used to creating things, and then I'm
Now it's like analytics
and being in front and learning how to make the ads and create the audiences, and then on top of that having to create the content and keep up this cadence of creating new content all the time and getting cold customers and selling a product. But it's a necessary evil if you want to survive.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's been nuts, but I've learned, I feel like I now have a marketing degree and I have all these tools under my belt to be able to make those prints really sell. And even though the overheads have been feels very crushing at times, because my problem is I look at the day-to-day and I see a few days in a row where I've had no sales and I've got these huge ad spends and I've got this rent and all these things. But then if I look at the bigger picture and the month-to-month and the year-to-year, every year, even with the painting sales tanking, the prints have risen and year-on-year growth is just going up and up and up because of that. So many days it feels like I'm just pedaling away and achieving nothing and just bleeding cash. But yeah, I've got to stop to look at what's actually going on, and that's not the case.
And then the big picture. And look, that's very much, aligned to investing and someone's financial journey. You go through days, you think, oh, I'm budgeting, I'm being so strict with myself, I've got these goals, I'm working on my debt. It is painfully slow. It is boring. It is frustrating. And at times it's even a little bit depressing. But it's not until you actually take a moment to stop and let's take a step back and reflect, but also compare.
Yeah.
And go, actually, this time last year, I had $20,000 worth of debt. Now I've only got $8,000 debt.
Yeah,
I had no money in savings, but I've now got $15,000 in savings. And this time last year, my superannuation was across 3 different accounts. It wasn't properly invested, and now it's invested in one account. It's consolidated. I've got my insurances set up correctly, and I'm salary sacrificing as well. But in the moment, we can just sort of let fear take over and just talk ourselves out of it. But really, we've come so far.
You set your goals so high and you just focus on those. And the sad thing about that is sometimes you're hitting those goals, but you never feel excited by them in the end.
Yeah,
because then
that dopamine is really in the journey rather than actually the end result, really.
Or there's always someone doing better and you think that you should be at this level when you stop and say, no, actually look at what you've done. That's actually quite amazing.
Well, comparison is the thief of joy, I think is the saying. It is the worst. And I say this to my kids all the time when they're like, she's got something I want.
And
I'm like, it is a bottomless pit of misery when you start comparing. Just stay in your own lane, focus on your own goals and dreams, and head down, bum up. But I can relate to so much, and I think everyone on their financial journey can relate to that as well. What would you say are probably the biggest lessons you've learnt financially and about yourself from this journey?
About myself is it's really highlighted how impulsive I actually am, and it could be my best friend and my worst enemy as well. So, I mean, if I wasn't impulsive, I would never have got that $150 a week studio, and someone else would have come in and got it the next day, stuff like that. Other times, the way that I said yes to everything or came up with all these ideas and just started acting on them. And then they all piled up into this big layer of crushing overheads because I didn't stop to think maybe instead of just doing all the things you want to do, just choose 1 or 2 things and do them well. Just do that instead of trying to crush everything and expecting this quick success within a week.
And just because you'd experienced it, you kind of assume that's going to happen all the time.
And because that was the problem, because I started at a really good time. There was luck on my side, and that was not a normal situation. But how often does a pandemic come across? Once every 100 years. So it was very good timing on my part, but coming up at a time like that, it made me think that's just what it's like. So gave me this false sense of security and confidence, which then plummeted after Melbourne and after I started going to the shows again, expecting this wild success like the previous year, and it was completely different. So it all comes about managing your expectations and not keeping them too high, even when things are going well. Yeah. Appreciate the fact that they're going well, and you're going to go through the market has ups and downs, and you just have to ride it out and a lot of people give up at this point. I know a lot of artists that are really feeling it and they can't sell anything and they don't have prints to fall back on. They also take it very, very personally.
Yes.
And they think, no one likes me now. I don't get any followers on Instagram. It's like, everyone loves your art. They used to buy it. They just can't afford it now. You don't have prints to fall back on. And the algorithms change. That's why no one's seeing your stuff.
Yeah.
It used to feed people your stuff and now it doesn't. It has got no bearing on you or what you're doing. But people can't see that. So you have to kind of
and when you're in that headspace, it is very hard to kind of see through and get that kind of perspective and go, all right, okay, maybe I need to pivot and try a different approach.
Yeah.
From a financial point of view, how has your life changed with going in this incredible direction?
Well, it's been amazing because instead of just relying on one person in our family to be the main breadwinner, we're both breadwinners now and we can save a lot more and we can do a lot more than we could have done if I had stayed on that path of just designing, which would have been fine as well. But for me, it's been very empowering to be able to contribute to my family in like the same amount that my husband does as well.
And how do you enjoy that money that you've been making together?
Oh, we just all blow it on property and make terrible decisions. And like, I haven't left the country in 15 years. So we're trying to plan an overseas trip, but we've got, we're about to plan a big renovation and now construction. I feel like you're making money, but now construction costs have gone up like by 10 million%. So whatever you make, you're going to blow. But we're on the same page and we make sound investments. And he works in finance as well. So I'm terrible with money, and he is like, if it wasn't for him, we'd probably be stuffed. So he's been giving me really good advice as well, and it's we make a good team. But it has been nice to be have the empowerment of contributing.
Okay, what advice would you give anyone who's listening to this right now going, I've got this little hobby on the side, I sell at the markets or I sell a little bit online or Facebook Marketplace. I really want to sort of level up and so that person's inspired by hearing your story. Like, what advice would you give them right now?
I would say that you got to remember that the world is your online oyster, and people, if you're relying on people to come to you at the markets or walk into your shop or find you by sitting there, it's not going to happen. But like, this is an unprecedented time. As growing up, you're at the behest of the advertising agencies to show you what's on the side of the bus or what ad's going to come on between Seinfeld episodes. Like it's not like that anyway. We've got more control than we've ever had, but you have to use it to your advantage. So, and now what the algorithm's doing at the moment, AI is favoring engaging content. Yeah. So you could be a small brand with zero budget, but really engaging content, and you will get seen more than the bigger brand that's spending all their money on ads. So I would say start getting comfortable with social media. You might want to hate it because it does suck. It's the devil and it's evil, but it's so necessary to grow a business and to be seen. And it's actually a big piece of control for you and your business to have it seen. So the other part of that is that people want to see who's behind a brand. So most people are very uncomfortable with getting in front of a camera. And I think if you can push through that barrier, I've seen so many businesses succeed when they finally get themselves in front of a camera. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. You don't have to look a certain way. People just want to connect with people and connect with a story and what's behind a story. So as I was saying before, like you could have a very similar business to another person and you sell a similar product that looks the same and it costs the same. But the difference between her product and your product is you and your story, and people want to invest in that story and people want to come along on the journey with you and be part of it. Yeah. And that's how you build your audience and you build your people. And it also
you build a loyal audience too as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you do that also by being your authentic self, and you can fluff around it and show all the perfect parts. My most successful posts have been talking about the shitty times and the bad things that happen. People thrive on other people's shit times. It sounds terrible, but it's not because they're being nasty. They just
not at all.
Makes them feel more human. Yeah. Because I think
it's their vulnerability. Yeah, is powerful.
Exactly.
And that's what I was like. I'm just going to reach out to you.
Yeah,
but from that particular post where you just said it as it is.
The other thing about me is the impulsivity is I don't think about what I'm doing. So for me, when I post stuff, I'm just like blah, 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 post. And I don't stop to think, how many people it's actually going out to. I just do it. I don't wait for it to be perfect. I just say it as it is and I do it as it is. But I think a lot of people are stopped by the fact that they want to make everything perfect. And I can't start this part of my business till I've nailed this, and I can't do this until I look this way. But you've just got to start somewhere and it will eventually grow. And to not expect, I need to take this advice myself, not expect things to just happen instantly. We're so used to things happening instantly, and it's not how it works when you're trying to grow a business, because good things grow slowly, right? So you just got to give it that time to get there.
And if you're passionate about this, you're in it for a long time, not a quick time. So where are you going now as we wrap up this episode?
I need to find a balance between painting and prints. The good thing about my prints is, the beautiful thing about it really is that it's, a lot of people can't afford art and they still need art, which is the position that I was in when I started the business. So they look incredibly realistic. Like it's exactly the same thing, just one is printed with archival links that last 100 years and the other is hand painted. They're both made with the same canvas, the same timbers, same stretches, but one costs a fraction of the price of the other. The other thing is that your taste changes. So I've got paintings that I got 5 years ago that I thought were the most beautiful things ever. And now I'm just like, I'm not sure I want that on my wall. The print kind of, you can grow with it or you can give it away without thinking I've just invested thousands and thousands on an original artwork that someone else might like later. So it's kind of provided all these options, made art accessible to people who couldn't otherwise afford it, but it's not like the print that you would expect to see at Kmart. It's very high quality, beautiful materials, but it's just providing another option. So I want to be able to do more prints, but more originals. I'm offering less prints now because I grew the shop too big and I had too many artworks in there. There were 250 last year. There's now about 100. And instead of offering like 50 to 60 prints per artwork, I'm now just doing 10 so I can reduce the amount that I have to sell, which will hopefully create space for me to paint more.
All right, I actually tell a lie. I've got two questions for you.
Yeah.
From one time poor, exhausted mother to another, how do you fit this in with 4 young children? And have you ever experienced burnout?
Burnout is my life. My whole life is just a burnout. It's one big burnout because it's very hard to switch off a business like this when you come home. You can't just get home and then be ever present. And those goddamn mobile phones, they're designed to distract you. And I'm now very conscious of the fact that my kids are always looking at me and I'm on a phone and I don't let them use many devices. And then I'm yelling at them when they take my phone, but they see me on the phone all the time.
Yeah. So
it's a real struggle, and having to post stuff most nights of the week as well. I'm always giving them dinner and then I'm off to the bedroom to try and post the next thing. And it's not easy. And I'm at least mindful of the fact of what I'm displaying to them and the behaviors that I'm modeling. So look, things helped when they all started school because then I had 5 days a week to deal with it. And
5 days of them out of the house.
Oh my God, so exciting. You're nearly there. It's so exciting.
Just 2 more years.
But 2 more years. Oh my God. Yeah, it's definitely a struggle and a juggle. And I'm just trying really hard to put the phone away in the hours that, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
Yes.
But there's always something, an email or an order that has to be processed or something has to come through and I just need to do this, guys. I just have to do this.
Yes.
But they're seeing me on my phone working and it's hard. And it's weekends, it's holidays. That's the thing about it's joyful owning your own business, but it's also you can't ever switch it off. You're always on and you're always working.
It's something I can very much relate to. And I sort of think, look, I'm showing my kids great work ethic, but also I'm terrified as to what damage I'm doing to them further down the track.
I think every parent, whether they're a business owner or not, does the same things. And we all yell at our kids and we all love them and they love us back, but no one's perfect. Yeah. And we have so many distractions these days and we know too much about everything and all what I can't deal with WhatsApp and email and messages. And, by the time you actually get to sit down, you have to then look at all those things. So I tend to ignore all of them, and then I get in trouble because I haven't responded to the netball thing or to the whatever it is. And it's
oh my gosh,
it's a juggle.
like you're talking about my life.
It's just so
exactly the same juggle I have.
sure a lot of people will relate to that.
Yes.
So,
oh my gosh. Well, look, Anna, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And not only has this been incredible from a sort of inspirational point of view in launching a hobby and having a go at turning it into something that you can monetize, but also from as a mother, listening to what you've just said makes me feel very safe and normal. But also, from a like a commercial, business-minded point of view, what you've shared has just been, and even from a social media advice, like it has been invaluable what you've shared, and your experience and your wisdom and just your complete and absolute honesty with your journey. So I can't thank you enough.
It's not always fun. It's not always la-di-da-di painting in the studio, happy days. It hasn't been that for a long time, but I'm building something slowly, and I've just got to keep reminding myself, and I hope that I can inspire people to be patient and play the long game. And maybe I can take some of my own advice as well. So,
well, your advice is beautiful. So,
thank you,
much.
and thank you so much for having me.
Now, for all the listeners, obviously, I will go and link Anna's beautiful pieces in the podcast notes. But for everyone who's listening right now, Anna's story is proof that turning a hobby into a successful business isn't just a dream. It is possible but you've just got to get started. Anna's journey reminds us that the most valuable currency you have is your creativity, your mindset, your persistence and consistency. So if you can take anything away from this conversation, let it be this. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. That, like Anna's, spontaneous nature, she just jumps on things. That's I think a blessing rather than a curse. And you don't have to have everything perfectly planned. Anna got started with some student paint and a canvas, and she was just having a bit of fun, being very open-minded along the way. So start small, start messy, and start with whatever you have right now in front of you. Because sometimes it is actually the greatest opportunities that appear when you least expect it. So take your passion and your courage and get started. Before you know it, you're probably going to be creating something yourself, like Anna has, out of thin air. Now, thank you for joining me this morning. And of course, thank you again for Anna for sharing her story and being so open and vulnerable. If you loved this episode, can you please share it with a friend or anyone else that needs a bit of a nudge right now in starting their own business or monetizing their own dream? And in the meantime, keep dreaming big and taking those small steps forward, onwards and upwards. This is Sugar Mama's Fireplay, Out of Thin Air mini-series.